This is the Amazing Teacher Podcast with Sam Rangel, episode number 17.
Welcome to the Amazing Teacher Podcast, where we sit down with amazing educators and pick their brains for tips, strategies, and ideas that you can take into your classrooms and be amazing. Now, here's your host, Sam Rangel.
Welcome, amazing teacher, to the 17th episode of the Amazing Teacher Podcast. This is Sam from successintheclassroom.com, and once again, I want to thank you for listening in to the podcast. I'm so grateful that you are choosing to listen to my conversations with these amazing teachers, either on your way to work or while you're in the gym or in your classroom on your prep period. You know, there's so many other things you could be doing, but the fact that you're listening to the podcast is really cool, and I appreciate that. That means a lot to me. I hope you're finding these amazing teachers as inspiring as I am. Today, my guest is Doug Robertson. He's known online and by the kids at his school as the Weird Teacher. Yeah, the Weird Teacher. When I saw his Twitter handle, the Weird Teacher, I had to investigate, and I'm so glad I did. Doug is an amazing teacher who's just full of enthusiasm and positivity, and he's just a really cool guy, and he shares on his blog and on his YouTube ClassCast some really great tips on student motivation and how important it is to have a classroom where safety and love are in abundance. So cool. In the podcast, he shares how we need to create an atmosphere in the classroom where kids know it's okay to fail. It's okay to guess wrong because that's when learning happens. He also encourages teachers to be rock stars. Yeah, rock stars. Listen for that. That's cool. I had a blast just talking with Doug, and I know you will enjoy it as well. So let's jump right into the interview with amazing teacher, the Weird Teacher, Doug Robertson. Ready? Here we go. Today, I am so happy to have Doug Robertson, also known as the Weird Teacher, on the podcast. Welcome to the show, Doug.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Well, yeah, I got to tell you, Doug, I found you on Twitter, and what really caught my eye was the name, your handle, the Weird Teacher. And so I had to go and look you up and take a look at your website and your videos. And right away, I knew I had to get you on the podcast. You have some really great insights that my audience of new teachers and soon-to-be teachers can find valuable.
I really appreciate that. Yeah, when I was the Weird Teacher came from the book that I wrote. I needed a title, and that's not something that I made up. That's something I was walking down the hall, and two kindergartners were outside, and I walked by them, and one kindergartner leaned to the other one and went, "He's the Weird Teacher." I was like, that's the best thing I've ever heard. So that's where the title of the book came from, and then especially nowadays in the internet, you want good SEO, good search engine optimization. So the Twitter is the Weird Teacher, and the website's the Weird Teacher, and the book's the Weird Teacher. So everything's got that name, and it's a nice, catchy brand, I guess. I feel weird calling something that I created. It's my brand, but I guess that's what it is. And then when you see it, it kind of tells you exactly what's going on. As soon as you read the Weird Teacher, you're like, okay, I think I know what I'm going to get from this.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it caught my attention. And I'm so glad that I was able to take a look at your blog and your videos. And I really want to get into your video on motivation. That was really something that I think is powerful, and we can learn a lot from. But before we do, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, your teaching career, how you got into teaching, and maybe why you became a teacher?
Yeah, this is my 8th year. At my first year in Oregon, we just moved to Southern Oregon. I started out in Southern California, and then moved after 1 year. I moved to Hawaii, mostly because every time I visited Hawaii, I had to be dragged kicking and screaming back onto the airplane. I want to go home. This is amazing. And when I moved, I was single, and I was a brand new teacher, and I'm sure Hawaii needs teachers, so I'm going to apply. And magically, I got a job there, which was awesome until I realized now I have to figure out how to move to Hawaii and how do you move across the ocean. And then I taught 3rd, and then because I was low man on the totem pole, I got moved around a whole lot. So I taught 3rd grade, and then I got moved to 6th grade, and then I got moved back down to 3rd grade, and then I got moved to 4th grade. So I taught kind of all over the school and every or not every grade, but almost all of the upper grades. And in that time, I met my wife, and we got married, and last year we had our first child, and she's a teacher too, but she wanted to be able to be home with him and be mom at home, and Hawaii does not pay teachers. So we had to move because there was no way we could survive there on one teacher's salary. So I started looking for jobs and ended up down here in Southern Oregon, and I'm loving my new school right now. So that's kind of the really quick my teaching history. I got into teaching because I was a lifeguard, and for the city of Palmdale, which is the best place, or was the best place, to be a lifeguard. It was amazing. And the best part of that job was teaching swim lessons. So like half hour, 20 minutes with 10 kids and just teaching them how to swim. And I loved swimming, and I loved being in the pool, and I loved working with the kids. And it was like, this is what I want to do when I grow up and become a grown adult person. And so that's what I started doing when I got to college. And it was like immediately, as soon as I got to start observing classes and going into elementary schools and working with kids, it was like teaching. I think teaching is a calling. People don't, like, real good teachers aren't people who woke up one day and were like, I'm going to be a teacher today. It's a thing that's inside of you, and it's a thing that you have to do. I think it's an art, so it's like acting. I have to be an actor. I have to be a musician. I have to be a teacher. And if you have that gene, and when that comes out, you have to do it. And I realized really early this is the job that I have to have. And lifeguarding solidified that, and then my time at the University of the Pacific really, really solidified that.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. It's almost like a calling. It's something that you spend your whole life doing, and it's not something that you can go in and come out and like any other job. It's something that you were born to do. What a lot of our new teachers, they have that calling. They just need those skills, those tools to make them successful in the class.
Yeah,
and that's what we're doing here.
And I love that you're kind of aiming this at young teachers. One of my big things, and I really developed this over the last 2 years when I had student teachers, is obviously our most important job is teaching the students. But as far as I'm concerned, a teacher's second most important job is growing the profession. So if you can have an opportunity to have a student teacher, you should have a student teacher. If you can have an opportunity to have somebody in your classroom observing you, you should have that. If somebody asks you, any other teacher in your school asks you to observe, let them in, because the only way we're going to get better is by learning from each other. And the only way we're going to get good new teachers is by putting them in the classroom of good teachers and growing them and helping them and leading them. So it's really cool that that's what this is aimed at. And it's so important to me.
I totally agree. Your very first class cast was talking about in response to some teacher, I guess, burnt out and trying to discourage people from getting into the teaching career. Mm-hmm. And I thought your response was so great. You know, we just need to get those new teachers in. It's not the best, the most as far as pay and we'll get frustrated, but it's an amazing job, especially when you can see the kids' faces light up when you teach them something new.
Yeah, very much so. And that, it's a calling, so you have to do it. And nobody goes into teaching like, I'm going to be famous and be rich. Yes, no, obviously you don't think that. You don't realize exactly how hard it's going to be when you're getting into it, but I think that's for everything. You don't realize how hard marriage is going to be when you get married. Everything is hard. But if you have the calling, if you have the love, then you have to do it. And so when I see teachers writing those super negative, don't go into teaching, or I wish I hadn't gone into teaching, or I'm getting out of teaching things, I feel like that's so counterproductive to everything we're trying to do. If you have a complaint, that's great. I totally understand. You need to find a way to change that complaint into something positive. I understand our pay is really bad. What are you doing about it aside from posting an angry thing on Facebook? That doesn't matter. Are you writing letters? Are you doing videos? Are you going out and talking to people? Are you spreading the word somehow? So, like, I think we need to stay really positive and stay on message with that kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Great advice there, Doug. Well, like I said earlier, I was really impressed and inspired by that your class cast on motivation, and I like what you said. The three main weapons that a teacher has for motivating. One was love. I mean, wow, what is it? Safety or?
Yeah. You're calling me out. I'm going to forget all three of them.
I know.
Your class, it needs to be safe, and it needs to be. I can't even.
I think love was the next one.
You got to have love for your kids and love for your subject. I think was there. I think the third one was a joke. I went into Monty Python.
Fanatical.
An almost fanatical devotion to the Pope.
Yeah, there you go.
I went into the Spanish Inquisition from Monty Python. But love and safety are the two big ones. Because and I talk about this a lot in the book. The kids are there to learn, so they're going to learn something from you, no matter what you do. And if you're like one of those scary teachers, they're going to learn because they're scared of you. But if you make a classroom a safe place where they feel okay to fail, and then they know that from failing they can get better, and if you make a classroom a loving place where they know you care about them, then they will try to learn. And trying to learn and just doing it are such completely different types of learning. So really making your class, and this is not a new thing or revolutionary in any way, but I really think it's something that a lot of teachers, especially new teachers, need to internalize. My classroom needs to be safe in all areas. There's no bullying, and the only time I get really grumpy at my kids is when there's bullying that's peer-to-peer. Because sometimes a kid is sassy at me, and I'm a grown-up. I have tools to deal with that. I'm not going to take that personally. But when there's peer-to-peer bullying or peer-to-peer sass, that's when I have trouble, because you are making my classroom an unsafe place. And I need everybody to feel comfortable. If everybody feels comfortable, everybody's going to try, because they're going to raise their hand and they're going to guess and be wrong. But at least I heard something that was in their brain. And then I know, okay, you're wrong, but I can see where you're wrong and I can help you fix it. And they're okay with being helped, with me helping them fix it, because it wasn't no, and then we're moving on. It's a safe place to be wrong.
That is so true, so true. And, especially these kids who, you teach third grade, you said?
Yes.
And, at that age, I would guess that they're still a little shy, a little worried about, what everybody's going to say. And I know when in my area, middle school, it's all about what the other kids in the classroom are going to say about them. So they're a little afraid about getting the answer wrong. But like you said, making sure that the class is a safe place to be wrong, I think that's so important for learning to take place.
Yeah, and I obviously can't speak for middle school. The highest I've taught is sixth grade, but this, it works in sixth grade too. And you're right. In third grade, they care what everybody else thinks, but it's not nearly as intense as when you're a teenager or when you're a tween, which is a word I've never said out loud before. Then, like, all you care about is what your peers think. So then, especially, I would assume it's even more important for the teacher to be modeling acceptance and modeling being wrong. I'm wrong all the time. I skip words when I'm reading. I get math problems wrong because I'm in a hurry or because I'm paying attention to what Johnny's doing instead of the math problem, so I made a silly mistake. And they see that, and then I say, oh, we made a mistake. Let's fix it. And, like, so it's okay. It's okay for me to make a mistake. And then it's all, those first 2 weeks are just, there's no teaching in the first 2 weeks. It's all setting up routines and setting up the classroom environment and I tell them, I'm super explicit about everything. You will not bully each other in this classroom. This classroom is a safe place. They're third graders. They can't infer that. I mean, they can see it in my body language and they can hear it in my voice, but they need to hear it. This is a safe place for you. And I say it very clearly, and I say it probably comes out of my mouth at least once a week, something along those lines. So it's always in their brains. It's okay to be wrong. It's okay to try. It's okay to fail. Nobody will make fun of you here. And if I hear about it on the playground, they're going to catch it. If I hear about it at home, they're going to catch it. Like, here is where you are wrong. Because if you are not wrong here, I have no job. They love to hear that. If you're never wrong, why are you in my room? Go away. You don't need to be here. You're not wrong. Don't you want me to have a job?
So cool.
You have to be wrong. I need to eat.
That's so cool. So cool, Doug. So real quick, let's say you have a new student, not really into school. What would you do? Because I know a lot of teachers are going to find themselves in this situation. What would you do to motivate that one student?
Especially, you gotta make learning personal. They need to know that they are not student number 31. They are Carlos. They're your new kid, who is immediately not your new kid. He's in your class. He is in our class. Mm-hmm. Our is a word I try to use as much as possible. And I catch myself I say my class all the time. This is my class, or this is why are my desks messy? And I try to immediately fix that. No, it's not my desk. These are our desks. The classroom library is not my library. It's our library. So he's immediately ours. He's immediately us. He's not him. He's not the new kid. He's just another kid in the room. And then you talk to him, and you find out what's going on. Where'd you come from? Do you like it here? Or what was it like back where you were? Have him tell stories and talk to the other kids. My class, and I'm super proud of my kids, because you get new kids, and they're always so good about bringing the new kid in and helping him just become a part of the classroom. I put him next to somebody. It almost doesn't even matter who I put the new kid next to, because all of my kids are well-trained enough that they're going to be accepting, and I'm going to say something that's a routine that everybody else already knows because we went over it, and the kid next to the new kid is going to be able to explain, hey, right now you're supposed to do this. And they take care of it, and they're respectful. And so soon the new kid is not the new kid. He's just another part of our classroom. And I greet him. And this is something I do with all of the kids every single day. I meet them at the door, and I shake everybody's hand as they come in. Good morning, hi, how are you? And that does so many things. That tells them, I see you, and I am happy that you are here. It tells them it's a Pavlovian switch. I'm crossing the plane from outside to now I'm a student, and I'm in class. And it also, for me, and I'm kind of taking this off on a little tangent, and I'll come back.
Not at all. Go ahead.
I'm the tangential teacher. If the kids get me talking about something, we lose 10 minutes. But the other thing meeting them all at the door does is there's always those kids who manage to melt into the desk. They disappear into the chair, and they're really quiet. and they never talk. And sometimes, even the
Mm-hmm.
best teacher, you forget to call on them. Now, you have sticks and you have all the little tricks, so you're sure you randomize who you call on. But if I greet everybody at the door and I say hi to everybody at the door, I know I've spoken to every child during the day. Every child has been spoken to. And that's important because I think it's really easy sometimes to miss a kid, especially the really quiet ones. They can sail through that whole day under the radar and nobody says anything to them. And to bring it back to the newer kid, a newer kid will do that, especially one that's really unmotivated and doesn't really want to be at school. I'm gonna put my head down, and this will be over in 5 hours. I can get through 5 hours. I can get to recess, and then I can get to lunch, and then I get to go home. So you immediately draw them in, and you're making eye contact, and you're there, and you make sure the other kids know your job is to welcome everybody. Everybody should feel welcome in our classroom.
Yeah, that's so cool. You build that. Sounds like you build that that system in the beginning of the year. You build out that atmosphere, that environment, and I have with many of the guests I've had on the show, it's all about building relationships, and that's the beginning of learning in those successful classes. You build those relationships, and you're going to get that student motivated and engaged in the lesson.
I 100% agree. Relationships are, as far as I'm concerned, the most important thing that you do in your room.
Mm-hmm.
Everything else, once you have relationships, you can do anything you want in your classroom. Any kind of learning, any kind of lesson, any kind of off-the-wall weird thing, or super serious, we're going to sit down and take a test now. If you have a good relationship, your kids will let you do that.
Very true. Very true. In fact, the last guest was Jeff Charbonneau, the National Teacher of the Year. He said relationships are even more important than instruction in the classroom.
I totally agree. I followed him on Twitter, and he's always tweeting really good stuff like that.
Yeah, he's an amazing teacher, and I was so glad to have him on the show. Well, the purpose of the podcast, Doug, is to sit down with amazing teachers like yourself and pick their brains for tips, strategies, and ideas that new teachers can take into the classroom and be amazing. Now, you've already shared many, many great pieces of advice. I know in your experience you've run across many amazing teachers. Can you tell us what are some of the qualities that you find common in those amazing teachers?
Well, not to sound like a broken record, but the amazing teachers that I know are really good at are building the relationships with their kids, and they're positive people, even and sometimes they're actors, because not every day is a good day. Some days are bad days. Some days I didn't sleep enough, and the kid kept me up last night, and the coffee is not good today, and the weather is bad, and just everything is and I don't want to be here today. But when the kids see you, they cannot see, I don't want to be here today. They need to see, I'm so happy you guys are here. We have so much to learn. Oh my gosh. So you need to be an actor. Teaching is so performance art. We're going to learn fractions today. Yay, fractions. And in your head you're thinking, I hate fractions so much. But you can use that too, because I remember I was so bad at math. And I was so, I was not good at math. I took it so many times. And I don't tell that to my kids. I tell them math was really hard for me and I tried really hard, but I don't tell them I hated math. They don't need to hear that. Mm-hmm. One of the things that drives me crazy is when I'm talking to a parent and I'm like, your son is struggling in math, and the parent says, yeah, I hate math. No, don't, because then your kid hears it's okay to hate math. Tell them math is hard. That's fine. It's totally okay for math to be hard. But don't tell them you hate it. That does not help. And so a lot of the really amazing teachers that I know are positive, and they smile at the kids, and they smile at kids that aren't in their class. They're just, you can feel it in the air. And if enough teachers are like that at the school, the whole school feels brighter. The whole school is better. And then everybody learns better and everybody works better. I have to be there at least 180 days, all day long. Why? I don't want to go somewhere that sucks for 180 days where people are grumpy and complaining. And the thing with that is grumbling. And I'm not saying don't complain, because you got to complain sometimes. You need that pressure release. But get it out and then get it done with. Don't hold on to it. Because grumbles, teachers who grumble, that's poison, man. That's so bad for a school, because it's insidious. It leaks in, and pretty soon it's just kind of in the attitude of the school, and there's just complaints and grumbles, and we're gathered around the copier, but it's kind of a negative conversation, and I'm complaining about my class, and I'm complaining about Common Core, and I'm complaining about the tests that are coming up, and I'm complaining about the administrator, and everything kind of has this negative power to it. And the amazing teachers are the ones who see that and are able to rise above it or bring it to a positive place. Because, there are things in education that are hard and we should be angry about, but we should be angry about them in a way that is productive. How are you going to fix it? Not, I hate this, I don't like this, and I'm going to do this about it. And I think amazing teachers are the ones who go out and try to find those things. These lessons are, this new set of standards feels really restrictive. Okay, well, how are you going to teach them so that the kids don't know that and they find that way? So that, I think that's what amazing teachers, they're smiling. Amazing teachers smile. There's that book that new teachers get all the time that says, don't smile until Christmas. What terrible advice. What horrible advice that is. And I'm sure that a lot of the book is really good, but I know that's in there, and that's awful. I hate that advice so much. After I just say, don't say hate the first time, I hate that. I do not like that advice. Don't not smile. Smile immediately so the kids know you're happy to be there. Because if you're happy to be there, they are more likely to be happy to be there.
Right. So true. And, it's okay to be grumpy, but not in front of the kids. Let the kids see that you love your job as much as possible. Because if the teacher is in a bad mood, you've lost the whole day.
Yes.
I mean, one of the promises that I have in the Amazing Teacher Pledge that I created is I promise to be in a good mood every day. That's probably the toughest promise to keep, but amazing teachers can do it. Like you said, they act it. They fake it until they make it.
Yeah, completely. I told the kids, and the kids don't know. Like, they don't care that you didn't get much sleep last night. Especially the littler ones, they don't. If you're grumpy at them. That's because their whole world is still them. So if you're in a bad mood, they did something wrong. Even if that's not true, that's how they're reading it. So you gotta remember that these are children who don't understand a lot of stuff, and so you need to read at, or you need to perform at them.
That's so true. If you're in a bad mood, they did something wrong. In their eyes, that's the way they see it. Very true. Very, very true. Well, Doug, do you have a favorite quote that maybe has inspired you that you'd like to share here on the podcast?
Ooh, a favorite quote. Oh, that's hard, man. Let me think. The one that pops into my head, and it's not even I don't even know if this is a helpful quote for what I was just saying. The first teacher quote that pops into my head is from Starship Troopers, the Robert Heinlein book, which if nobody's ever read, you really ought to read it, because the movie is completely different than the book. The book is super interesting, and the movie is really good too. It's good satire, military propaganda. But the book is awesome. And there's a teacher in the book who says you can lead a student to knowledge, but you cannot make him think. And I just think that's a really funny quote. And it's an interesting way to look at our job. I think there's more to it than that, obviously, from everything else that I said. You can't make him think, but you can make him want to think. You can motivate and stuff like that. And then, because my ego is gigantic, I'm going to quote myself, because that's what I do, apparently. But I've got a note card written above my desk that really nobody sees and nobody knew about until I put it in the book, and now dozens of people know, however many people have read the book. But I've got a note card that I was having a really bad day, and I was trying to think, like, what kind of a teacher do I want to be? And so I wrote, I'm a bombastic rock star frontman of a never-ending education funk machine. And, like, I love that. Oh, that makes me, when I think about that and when I look at it, I'm like, yeah, I'm a rock star. I'm a rock star frontman of a never-ending education funk machine. Yes, I'm on stage when I'm in front of those kids. I'm Steven Tyler before he got awful on American Idol. I'm Henry Rollins. I'm Freddie Mercury. I'm one of those guys that's just bringing it. Because, like, teaching, you're a rock star. You're on tour every night. Every night you got to hit the stage, and you got to give it 110%. When you see Kiss perform Rock and Roll All Night, that's the 10,000th time those guys have done that song. And it looks like it's the first time. Every single time.
Yeah.
You got to be Paul Stanley on stage. Like, that's what I think about. I want to be a bombastic rock star frontman of a never-ending education funk machine. That's the goal. So I'm going to quote myself.
I love it.
Because I'm such an egomaniac narcissist.
No, I love it. I love it, Doug. You got to be Paul Stanley. What a great quote to put in for new teachers. New teachers, if you're out there, you got to be Paul Stanley in your classroom.
That's right.
I wonder how many new teachers know who Paul Stanley is.
Oh, that's depressing. Don't even bring that up. Hello, Cleveland. I love you.
Yeah, they were big when I was young. But they're still out there.
They're so good. They're so good. And they're 60, and they're still just destroying it. They probably know Gene from his TV show.
Right, probably, but not with the makeup. Not with the makeup. Well, Doug, if you could sit down with a new teacher just starting out in their career, and you had time for just one piece of advice, what would that advice be?
Just one piece.
Just one.
Let me think.
Gotta be good.
Better be good, yeah. The most important word in teaching is love. That's the piece of advice, because love translates into it's a calling. So you got to love your job. You got to love your kids, even those kids that are like, oh my God, this child, I'm just going to, he's a kid, and you got to love that kid anyway. And you've got to love learning, and you've got to love teaching, and you've got to love being in front of them. Like, if you have, let's go with John Lennon, man. All you need is love. Like, that's all you need. That's it. That's teaching. Teaching is love. And as long as you can hold on to that, even those rough, awful days, you're going to be able to get through.
So cool. Very, very good. You know, anybody could love those lovable kids. But, like, I think you would agree, amazing teachers love even the unlovable ones.
Yeah, those kids, like I said, those kids that drive you up, those are the ones who need you to love them. Mm-hmm. There's a chapter in the book called Sympathy for the Weird Kid. That's all about those kids that are just, they're marching to the beat of a drummer that you've never, ever heard before. And those are the kids that need you. Those are the kids that you need to love. You got to love the unlovable, totally. Or the unloved, at least.
Very cool. The unloved, very good, very good. You never know what what's going on in the lives of these kids when they walk into your classroom. Very true. So, Doug, what's happening right now in your life that you are excited about?
We have a tiny human. He's just turned 14 months, and he's just now starting to walk and starting to be. This is going to sound like I'm a horrible dad. He's just now starting to be really interesting. Like, you know how when they're brand new, they're just kind of a lump of dough, and they're still cute and they're still adorable, and you still love them to bits. But now he's playing and he's walking and he's starting to get words. And when I come home from work, I can hear him through the door, like super excited. And we're reading right now. He's like, you know how kids do one book at a time. I love Goodnight Moon, and so you're gonna read Goodnight Moon 9,000 times. Right now, he's super excited about this book called Moo Ba La 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 by Sandra Boynton. And it's a super easy, simple book where the animals make noise. But he's starting to, like, the cow says moo, and then he'll go, moo. And, like, I want to high-five him and pick him up and shake him like, yay, you said moo. I'm so happy. And it's so neat to see how much he's changing and how much he's growing. That makes me really, really excited. And then professionally, I'm writing the book that I wrote, He's the Weird Teacher. I wrote it because I felt like I had a lot to say, and I just needed to get it out there. And writing is also an artistic thing. It's also a calling. So like, I'm going to write this, and I'm going to self-publish it. And if nobody buys it, at least I wrote it. At least it exists in the world. And I've gotten to do your podcast. I did the Rockstar Principles. I got really active on Twitter. I'm going to the University of the Pacific and doing a talk. I've done a couple of readings. Like, it has opened me up professionally to so many more teachers and so many more ideas, and it's so cool to have my horizons opened like that from the book, on top of hearing from other teachers about your book. And I read it, and it really spoke to me, and I really liked some of the things, and I wish I'd have had a teacher that I know told me, I wish I'd have had this book last year when I was going through a really rough time. If I'd have had this book last year, it would have been so much easier. And that really means a lot. And like, obviously your family buys the book right away. So there's a couple of like Amazon reviews that are my mom and my dad, because they have to write an Amazon review. But now all of the reviews are people I don't know, and they're writing really nice things. And it's incredible. It's super gratifying, and it makes me go into my classroom more confident, because I think everybody teaching, we're such an island. You're in your classroom and you're all alone. And I think what I'm doing is working, but I don't really know. Am I a crazy person with the way I'm teaching? And then you get on Twitter, or you start talking about it. I'm able to do it through the book and through other stuff, and you find out, oh, what I teach is the way other people teach, or the way I teach is the way other people want to teach. I'm not a crazy person. I'm actually doing good, and I'm helping. Not only am I helping my kids, I'm helping my peers. That's so cool, and that's super exciting too. And then on a more I'm sorry, you asked a question, and I'm just going to talk and talk and talk.
No, go on.
On a more, even more micro level, I'm new to the school that I'm at. This is, like I said, I just moved, but I'm not good at sitting quietly. Like, if you're going to put me on a committee, you might as well make me the committee chair, because I'm going to want to be in charge. And my principal let me do that, and I've had a lot of meetings with my principal where I'm like, we should do this, and we should try this, and I want to do this, and she's very supportive. She's like, okay, let's do it. I'll help you set this up. I'll help you set this up. Right now, I'm trying to get some. Our school's never done a big Read Across America thing before, and I'm the biggest Dr. Seuss fan on the planet. He's the greatest author, period. Like, not the greatest American author, not the greatest children's book author. Dr. Seuss is the greatest author, period. So like I'm really into Read Across America, and our school's never done anything before. So we're starting to build. We need to get some readers in, and we're going to do this, and I want to do that. So that, like on a school professional level, is super exciting to be able to be affecting change in my school, and then with the book, be affecting change, hopefully globally. That would be really neat. And then personally with my son and everything.
Wow. Well, Doug, I can tell you right now, you're doing, based on what I've read and your videos, I know you have a lot to offer, and I'm going to put a link to your book on my site so people can take a look at it, because I know what you got to say has got to get out there, and the teachers need to hear it. And again, I appreciate you being on the podcast, and I hope that that being on the podcast will help spread your message a little further.
I really appreciate that. Thank you. Can I plug the blog and stuff?
Feel free. In fact, that was my next question. Oh. If people wanted to thank you for sharing all your amazing insights, where can they find you?
If they want to thank me for sharing insights, they can send me $400. That's my fee. Everybody who listened to this podcast, you need to send me however you want to pay. PayPal's fine. No. So I'm on the tweets at The Weird Teacher. It's really simple. The blog is he'stheweirdteacher.blogspot.com. And that's got links to the Twitter account. It's got links to the book and all of the places where you can buy He's the Weird Teacher. And it's also where I post the class cast that you were talking about. I was going to do once a week, but I got, we got a 14-month-old, and I got a new job, and I got all kinds of stuff going on. So they go, twice a month is what I'm going for right now. I just recorded one today that I'm really excited about, and I'm going to edit it as soon as we're done and hopefully get that up soon. But they're short 10-minute videos, just me talking at a camera about something important with teaching. The Christmas episode was just me reading How the Grinch Stole Christmas. So I'm a citizen of the internet, so you can find me online. And the tweets is probably the easiest way to immediately get a hold of me, and from there you can find everything else. And He's the Weird Teacher is my book, and it's available on Amazon. You can buy it on paperback or for your Kindle. It's available on iTunes for your iDevice. And if you're one of the random people like me who has a Nook, you can buy it through Barnes & Noble for your Nook, or you can buy the paperback through Barnes & Noble too, and they will ship it directly to your house. So there's lots of ways to get the book.
Very cool. And I'll put all those links on the website, and I will embed, because I really liked your video on motivation. I'll embed that right there underneath the podcast episode. You didn't mention your puppets. You always start your podcast or your class cast with puppets. That's pretty cool. You do that in class?
I do, yeah. The most recent one I didn't, but you're right. Yeah, I have two puppets in my class. Two who goes home with the kids. And that's a fun little lesson that I talk about. And Corson, who's the blue one, who's like my main puppet, and he does not like humans very much, but he'll do my introductions for me. I bullied him into doing my introductions.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. Well, again, thank you so much, Doug, for being on the podcast. It's been a pleasure. Really, it's been hilarious. Just hanging out with you and talking about teaching. I'm so glad that we got a chance to hang out.
I really appreciate it. Thank you. I love talking about teaching. It's what I do, and so it's fun to talk about, especially with somebody else who is like-minded, who feels the same way. I appreciate you doing the podcast so that kids, new teachers, and even veteran teachers, that we need this too. Like you need to be able to go to a gas station and fill back up.
Very true, and thanks for that, Doug. So to the listeners, I know you've received a lot of great information in this episode. Now it's up to you to take it back to the classroom and implement what you learned today. So until next time,
be amazing.
The Amazing Teacher Podcast is brought to you by SuccessInTheClassroom.com. Learn more about being an amazing teacher by visiting SuccessInTheClassroom.com or TheAmazingTeacher.com.